I'm really excited to share with you a brand new string library that was sent to me recently. Full transparency, this awesome company called Emergence Audio, whose products I was already using on a ton of projects, they reached out to me recently and they asked if I'd be interested in taking their newest library called Viola Textures for a test drive. I already own their violin and cello textures, and I was using them frequently, so obviously I was really excited to check out this addition to the series. I found it so incredibly inspiring that I personally decided to make this video where I'm going to share with you what makes not just this library, but the other textures libraries from Emergence Audio so interesting and useful when composing. We're going to cover what I find most effective from these viola textures, and most importantly, I want to give you a rundown of how I'm going to personally be using and integrating this library into my work because I think it has a lot of great applications. Make sure to stick around until the end also because I'm going to share with you a piece of music that I made really quickly in just like 15 minutes with this library, and I think it's a great example of how effective it is at creating emotional and evolving music. So let's dive in. So as I mentioned, I already had a number of libraries from Emergence Audio when they contacted me, and what I love about their instruments is that they use something called an infinite motion engine, and that's combined with what they call non-static sampling. While you can learn a lot more about it on their website, which I'll put a link to below, the idea here is that these instruments have like a constantly evolving and unpredictable quality, and it adds this level of depth and realism that I've personally found really, really effective. As I already mentioned, prior to the company reaching out to me, I had already owned their violin textures, cello textures, and then one of their synths called Quantum. And what makes them such cool instruments is that they utilize this sort of unique engine and sampling process, which allows you to really easily blend and sculpt these beautiful, expressive textures and soundscapes that, again, I happen to have used on a lot of great projects for film and TV, and I'm also using them on a game that I'm currently working on. So what I really want to focus on today are their viola textures. But I mentioned the other libraries in this series simply because when you combine them all together, the results are really sort of beautiful, and that's what I'm going to show you at the end of the video. This viola library though, they've taken everything they've learned from their previous releases and created one of the most just emotional and expressive instruments that I've had the opportunity to use. Let me show you what happens just when you hold out a single chord with one of their patches. So that's just a really bare bones example of how expressive a single patch can be when holding down a chord and just hitting a couple harmonies. Let's go into the sequencer now, and I want to take a look at the instrument and what it has to offer in more detail. This is what their interface looks like for a lot of their other libraries. So if you are familiar with them, this is going to be really, really easy to just jump in and get going. But for those that might be new to this series, I just want to give you a quick rundown. Basically over here, you're able to load two different articulations from the string. So as you can see, we have a bunch of different performance styles, and we have two separate areas where we can load them, and you can also power them on or off, right? So in this case, we have the same performance style selected, and you can also control either individually or you can link them with this button, the attack, delay, sustain, and release. Everything here is really intuitive, which I certainly appreciate. They also have individual filters and a pan, and then you can go over here and you can add an LFO. So there's a lot of stuff that you could do with these two channels. But the real fun is when you actually combine the different performances with one. And what I'm going to show you here is you could see the wave file, and it's incredibly long, and basically you can just hold down a note, and for as long as you hold it down, it's not going to sound like something just looping. Like if you listen to this right here. So it sounds very nice. It's got a very detailed sound to it. And what this knob in the middle is going to do right here is basically, if you go all the way to the left, you're only going to hear this performance right over here in the left column. So check this out. So let's now go all the way to the right. We're going to hear a lot more of those sort of arcs or crescendos in the string, which is what this performance is that's loaded into this channel. If we just go to these presets and we pick one from either the alternates or the correlated, let's just try this. So now to really get the most out of that, what we want to do is if we automate this here so that it's following that LFO, watch what happens. So that's like a really dramatic example because you could basically hear it going from those arcs on the right channel, and then when it goes to the left channel, it's sort of just more of that sustain. And so there's room for a lot of experimentation actually to create some really, really cool and beautiful string textures that allow you to create the soundscape by just holding things out. Because of that infinity engine and the non-static sampling, as you hold it out, it's not going to sound like it's just the same thing repeating, and it's really, really appealing. Then you can get really, really creative here, and you can start adding in all these different effects like the delay, convolution, and so on. And they also have this randomization button over here that basically allows you to create your own texture just by the click of a button, and it's something that no one else will do because it's completely random. So let's actually try that and see what that sounds like. Alright, so that's kind of a cool sound, and again, I got that just by clicking this button. If I wanted to, I could save that over here into its own folder so that we don't lose that sound. So let's try one more. So for me, in that regard, the possibilities are like endless, and I really like that. And then the other thing that I want to explore with you here is they, of course, come with tons and tons of presets. Like if we go into this snapshots folder, there's just so many presets here, and I've been playing with them all weekend, and they sound really, really good. So they've separated them out into these different sort of categories with pulses and swells, alternates, experiments. So let's just kind of like pick some, and we're going to check them out. There's just a certain level of detail that's in there where you can really hear the bow on the strings. And there's a definite level of imperfection that I say in a really good way. If you've seen some of my other videos or you've taken my course, Modern Scoring Mastery, I really like to combine sounds just like this that are very, very expressive, and they're not able to be played very quickly, but you can hear the bow really, really definitively on the instrument. It just adds another level of realism when you blend those in with your other strings. So I'm definitely going to be using this in that regard to experiment and do some stuff like that. Let's just check out a couple more of these presets. So that's just a perfect example of how just holding something out can be really, really expressive. I mean, that's like the intro to a whole cue. If we just were to come over here and just add like an epic reverb to that, you're gonna get some really, really, really cool stuff out of it. And we can just add like a filter as well. Check this out. I think that that's a perfect example of this. I mean, there's just so many applications for that texture. So the other thing I wanted to show you here is that in addition to all those presets, which are just really cool, there's like endless textures and stuff to play with, is that it also comes with these multis, which is basically what happens when you combine a bunch of those different presets all together so that when you play the keyboard, you're hearing them all at once, and it just creates a whole new sonic realm for you to kind of experiment and play with. And this is just Cosmic Symphony Multi. Let's just see what this sounds like here. It's all a hologram. Let's see, Screaming on Rooftops. What is that? It's really cool. Again, all these multis just have this really, really great effect where if you just hold something out for a really long time, it just kind of continues to evolve, and I find it to be super effective. It's definitely going to be helpful to cover a lot of ground when working in film or TV especially. You're just kind of trying to set the tone while staying out of the way of dialogue or events that are happening. So I really, really love it. I'm going to just check out one more. These titles are really cool. This one's The Veil of the Future. So that's just awesome. I actually, when I just played that, it made me think of a scene that I had to do a year or two ago from a show. And it's like, that was the exact sound that you would have pulled from. You know, it was a scene that was very like hallucinogenic. It was really trippy and stuff. And so there's a lot of really, really inspiring things here. The next thing I want to do is I just want to show you this piece that I honestly just threw together by holding out some chords and stuff and utilizing these different instruments, and I combined it with the other instruments from this series. So these are the viola textures, but I combined it with the violin textures and the cello textures and the bass textures from Emergence Audio. So basically, when I used all these textured instruments together, it kind of allowed me to create this piece really quickly by just holding out some sustained chords. And I thought it sounded really beautiful. I thought it sounded really nice. So I just wanted to share it with you to show you what's possible. I'm definitely going to be using this library. And again, no one asked me to say that. They just kind of said like, hey, here's a library we made. We're really proud of it. We think it's special. And if you wanted to check it out, just want to know what you think. And I played with it. I just threw this piece together. And I'm like, ooh, I really love this. I wanted to make a video to show you guys. Here's what this piece sounds like. So I really love how that sounds. I think that they're very, very raw and emotional, and they're easy to work with, which is one of my number one things when adopting a library into my template. Like I said, I just made that in like a couple of minutes pretty much. And the reason that I was able to get something that sounded emotional, that I thought sounded good so quickly, was because the samples and the way that this instrument was made, I feel is just really, really effective. So that's Viola Textures. What you just heard was Viola Textures, violin, cello, and double bass textures. I'm personally going to be using these for very emotional sounding strings, and also as a sound design tool for both pads and then more sort of like interesting and dissonant types of sounds. And then, as I mentioned, I'm definitely going to be using them to combine with my traditional string libraries, because I just think that the way that they were recorded, the way that they're mic'd, and that Infinity engine that gives it this super realistic tone that can be blended then with other strings, it's going to just make everything, I think, a lot richer and more cinematic. And I think they did a great job. I would highly suggest checking it out. I'm putting a link down below. I get no like affiliate kickback or anything from this. This is genuinely just my reaction to the product that was sent to me. And before you go, if you could please just take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It's actually an enormous help to the channel and allows me to continue putting out free content like this. We recently found out that over 57% of people that view this channel regularly are actually not subscribed. So if you could help us just sort of start to shrink that number, it would be really great. And as always, I hope this was helpful.